Hey guys, it's JC Theater Yu-Gi-Oh here today, and I'm coming at you with a Malefic Danger deck profile for you guys. So I haven't made a deck profile in a hot minute. Because of the quarantine, I actually haven't bought any singles in over a month, and I just recently posted an opening last Friday of the first cards I bought in like a month from Walmart because I happened to be there, and I definitely just was getting the itch to get back to physical Yu-Gi-Oh! So without further ado, let me just get into this deck profile. I've been working on it since the new support came out recently, which definitely helps the deck a lot, and I'll go through what's new in the deck as opposed to before Dual Overload and see how the deck kind of gets a lot better. So first up, we have 3 Malefic Paradox Gear. Paradox Gear has 2 effects which definitely help this deck a lot. The first effect being if you have a field spell on your side of the field, you can tribute him in order to bring out one of the 2 copies we play of Malefic Parallel Gear. And if you do that, we also get a search for any Malefic monster in our deck. So Paradox is a search, and also he maintains field presence by bringing out Parallel Gear. The more interesting effect, his second effect that Paradox Gear has, is that if he's in your graveyard, you can, or on your side of the field, and you try to use a Malefic monster's effect in your hand, which is to banish a certain named monster from your extra deck or deck, instead you can banish him from your graveyard or your side of the field in place of that. That is a hard once per turn, but it's definitely good because that means in case you draw into one of your bricks, your Malefic monsters are still relatively live because we do have Paradox Gear now to kind of take the place of that. Parallel Gear is a good monster to go into with Paradox Gear, not only because of the search effect, but it's a level 2 tuner, and its effect is that if it's part of a synchro summon, the other monster in the synchro summon is a Malefic monster in your hand. So when you bring out Parallel Gear with Paradox Gear, you can either use that searched Malefic monster and Parallel Gear to bring out a level 10 synchro monster, or a level 12, but in this deck I'm just playing a few level 10 synchro monsters. Or you can just simply have this on the field for field presence and then just bring out the Malefic monster as you normally would. Speaking of Malefic monsters, I run 2 Malefic Rainbow Dragon and 2 Malefic Blue Eyes White Dragon. So let me just pop them like this, I guess. So the 2 and 2 combo here is because these are the 2 Malefic monsters we play in the deck that require you to have a brick in the actual main deck. In the case of Rainbow Dragon, you have to banish a copy of the original Rainbow Dragon from your deck in order to bring him out onto your side of the field. And for Blue Eyes, you have to banish a copy of course, the original Blue Eyes from your main deck in order to bring him out from your hand. These guys also have some restrictions where they can be the only Malefic monster on the field. They're the only monster that can attack, and also they need a field spell on the field in order to stay on the field. They have a lot of restrictions for sure, but these guys definitely get helped by the new support, and we're only running 2 of each because, like I said, that brick, we only run 1 of each of 1 Rainbow Dragon and 1 Blue Eyes, so that way we don't get filled up with bricks. Now for the relatively good Malefic monsters, we play the 3 Malefic Stardust Dragon. And then on top of that, we play, let me just move these up. We play the 3 Malefic Cyber End Dragon. So Malefic Stardust Dragon and Cyber End Dragon, they're the better ones because obviously they don't make you play any bricks in the deck, because what you banish is a copy of Stardust Dragon from your extra deck, and in Cyber End Dragon's case, you banish a copy of Cyber End Dragon from your extra deck, which is definitely very good. It's almost basically a free summon because you'll never like draw into those extra deck monsters or anything, so they're always live in the deck. Let me just switch over real quick to show off Malefic Stardust Dragon. So Stardust and Cyber End Dragon both have the same effect as the other Malefic monsters, the same restrictions and same effect and everything, except for a different named monster to banish. But Stardust Dragon is the only main deck like Malefic monster other than the 2 gears that has another effect where field spell cards you control cannot be destroyed by effects. So that's just an extra little bonus. It's kind of an homage to Stardust Dragon himself. So it's definitely good. It kind of comes up in the sense that if your field spell is destroyed, this deck has the potential to crumble very quickly. So that's just something to keep in mind, that this has a little added effect on top of all the restrictions and the summoning of a normal Malefic monster. Next up to the danger package, I just play 3 Bigfoot and 3 Thunderbird. If you hadn't noticed, both Stardust Dragon and also, let me just move these, Stardust Dragon and Malefic Blue Eyes and regular Blue Eyes, which we play in the deck, but Stardust Dragon and Blue Eyes are level 8 monsters, so I kind of ran heavy on the 8s with these, both Thunderbird and Bigfoot, so that way we would have a total of 12 level 8 monsters in the deck that are relatively free to special summon, so that way we can go into some rank 8 plays. Malefics also are able to go into rank 10 plays, but because I play the dangers in this variant, I focus more heavily on the rank 8 plays, and because of that, I do play things such as Trade-In, which we'll get into in the Spell and Traps, but I'm getting ahead of myself. The last 2 main deck monsters in the deck are, of course, as I've infamously mentioned already, the 1 copy of Blue Eyes and the 1 copy of Rainbow Dragon. It is kind of a consistency, kind of like not really planning for the future as opposed to immediately, but you just play 1 of the Blue Eyes and 1 of the Rainbow Dragon despite playing 2 copies of the Malefic versions, only because you want to increase the chance of drawing the Malefics before you draw these 1-ofs here, the bricks, which you never want to draw. The biggest downside of Malefics for the Blue Eyes and the Rainbow Dragon specifically is the fact that if you draw these guys, those Malefic monsters in your deck become dead because they have to banish these from the deck. So for the spells, I play 1 copy of 1 for 1. This is very good because Paradox Gear is something you definitely want out of your deck as soon as possible in order to use either of his amazing effects. 1 Foolish Burial, 2 the Melody of Awakening Dragon, so that way we can search some of our Malefics who fit this description. 2 copies of Allure of Darkness, because we are playing quite a heavy dark attribute count. And then we're playing 3 copies of course, Trade-In, because we are playing, I believe, 12 level 8s as well. Yes, I just said 12 level 8s in the deck. So that's why Trade-In is definitely very good, and it activates your Dangers effect, so that's a bonus. Some more 3-ofs we play are 3 Malefic World, which is the field spell in the deck. Malefic World is actually quite an interesting card. This has the effect that you can, instead of conducting your normal draw during the draw phase, you simply select 3 Malefic cards in your deck, and your opponent picks 1 of those 3 Malefic cards, and you add it to your hand as like basically a semi-searched draw. If you pick any of the 3-ofs in this deck, you can just basically guaranteed getting that into your hand because your opponent has no choice but to pick that card. And next up, probably the best dual overload card for Malefics is Malefic Territory. This is kind of a crazy card to me because it is literally a pseudo errata of the Malefic monsters. So when it's activated, you can actually activate a Malefic world from your deck onto the field, and while it's in the field zone, neither player can target a card in the field zone with card effects, so that kind of like helps get rid of the potential of your field spell being destroyed. That's why Stardust Dragon's effect is good, but honestly usually you'll have this on the field as well, which will help protect your field spell. The Malefic monster's effects that, in quotations, there can only be 1 face-up Malefic monster on the field becomes there can only be 1 face-up Malefic monster on the field with the same name. And during your battle phase, your Malefic monster's effects are negated. So to break these down very quickly, the 2 biggest restrictions of only being able to have 1 Malefic monster and also only being able to attack with 1 Malefic monster are no longer an issue. Granted, you can only have 1 Malefic monster of each specific name, but that's why we have multiples of each level. We have the Blue Eyes and the Stardust for the level 8s, and then we have the Cyber End and the Rainbow for the level 10s, so that way we can go into any Xyz plays we want to go to. And like I said, the fact that you can now attack with any of your monsters is definitely really, really good. And since this is a searcher slash activator for your field spell, it's just all around a very good piece of support for this deck. And then I just play one copy each of the two other new spell cards. So I play one Malefic Selector, where you banish 2 Malefic cards from your graveyard to add 2 Malefic cards from your deck to your hand, except a copy of Selector or a copy of either of those banished cards. This is good in theory because you are able to search out 2 cards, but the fact that you have to wait until you have 2 Malefic cards in your graveyard kind of makes this too situational for a relatively slow deck to begin with. And then we also have one copy of Malefic Divide, which you can target one Malefic monster in the graveyard and special summoning, ignoring the summoning conditions, and its effects are negated, and you banish it during the end phase. Is basically this deck's version of a Monster Reborn to get around the fact that you can't use actual Monster Reborn on the Malefic monsters. So for the extra deck, I'm just going to go straight into the rank 8 monsters. We play one Zombie Stein, one number 38, one Galaxy Eyes Full Armor Photon Dragon, and one Galaxy Eyes Cypher Dragon. And then for the rank 8 plays, I have the one number 35, one Rail Cannon Gustav Max, and then I play one Utopic Dark Infinity because his effect allowing you to select one special summon monster you control and gain that much life points. I know gaining life points isn't viable much, but in a slow deck like this, and the fact that we are playing a lot of straight up big monsters, I feel like this is slightly viable since it does have 4,000 attack himself, and in addition he can have you gain a lot of life points in the process with your other Malefic monsters. For the synchros, I simply play the one Malefic Paradox Dragon. If you ever want to make this deck more competitive, I highly recommend not playing Paradox Dragon. It's purely because I just find it interesting and I like playing the boss monster, quote unquote, in a deck, and this is the boss monster for Malefic monsters. This is unlike the other Malefic monsters. Only the Gears and Paradox Dragon are like unique to Paradox, the person who uses the Malefic monsters. All the other ones are like stolen from the main series animes like monsters. And then I also play one Ascension Sky Dragon. An interesting thing to note is the fact that Malefic Parallel Gear, he isn't restricted to just being used for Malefic Synchro monsters. He's just restricted to only using a Malefic monster in your hand, which definitely can lead into some interesting situations. This is the best card I own that I can go into really with this strategy, but I definitely recommend, if you're interested in the deck, kind of figuring out what you can go into, because the free synchro summon with just one monster on the field definitely has potential whenever it's available. And then the final 6 cards in the deck are just the 3 Stardust Dragon, so that way our Malefic Stardust Dragon is always live, and also 3 Cyber End Dragon, which I'm sad to end the profile with 2 proxies because I thought I owned 3 copies of Cyber End Dragon, but I sadly do not. In theory, you could probably run 2 of each of these, similar mindset with the Rainbow Dragon and Blue Eyes Dragon, but I just like to keep some longevity in the deck. But let me know what you guys think. This is definitely a more fun build. I haven't really super competitively thought all the kinks through this, but ultimately this strategy, or this like just play style and this deck in total and all of its gimmicks are so interesting to me, and I hope you guys do pick up the deck. I hope a lot of the more expensive cards get reprinted soon so everyone can enjoy this super interesting and fun deck. I'm JC Theater Yu-Gi-Oh! See ya!